Good morning. It is, how do we get to June 17th? I keep saying that. We're doing the last story in Veronica Schanoes' book, The Burning Girls. And I do want to talk about our talk with Veronica. And remember this, I push it up to YouTube. She might see this. I will start. I thought she was gracious, giving, and it's one of those things. If we had done it earlier, would we have appreciated it more? But could we have done it earlier? No. It just made me look at so many of these stories differently. And I think Lynn's question about the mannequins, which we all remember, and you said something about capitalism, and she said right away, "Yeah, I grew up in a Marxist household." And it like pulled a curtain over. It explains so much.
Yeah.
So, any other thoughts about Veronica?
I thought she was very open, and again, I think everyone in our group was very thoughtful in their questions.
Here.
I don't, I know you were worried.
Don't say that.
Well, because everyone
Yes, we do have strong opinions.
has
Okay.
prefaced that, I don't like the book. And everyone I thought was very great. And she was very open about her feelings.
Yeah. Lynn.
Honestly, when I saw her and heard her, I was having trouble picking, how we thought this was autobiographical.
Yeah.
I had trouble picturing her in these situations or her having a mind that would create these horrible images.
Yes.
So she was a great writer. But she did say that, yes, it was partly autobiographical. So listen, we sometimes write out our worst nightmares.
So I'm reading this book, Whistler by Ann Patchett. And I think because of this group, I keep thinking, I listen and read. And Ann Patchett is the narrator in the audiobook. And I keep thinking like, did she experience? I keep thinking about Ann Patchett.
Yeah.
And the main character is older. She's in her 50s. And the men in her life are older than that, in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. And her mother's in the book. And so it's just, I'm absolutely loving that book. But I'm thinking about Anne because I think of some of our discussions in here about Veronica.
You know what? I learned early on in my college career to beware of placing biographical significance on a piece. That's why when I do any book clubs or have in the past, I really don't include the author unless it's really relevant to what's going on in the story.
Here's a question for everybody, kind of a general question. Do you look at, so I'm deeply into this book and, I've looked at some reviews before I do a book, but do you look for questions or reviews or study guides before you get to the end of the book? Lynn is saying no. That's probably a good idea. Mary's saying no. Go ahead, Abby. Wait. You must be, I'll unmute you. Go ahead.
If it's nonfiction, I do.
Oh, okay.
So that I have some idea of what they're talking about, because it might be a topic
That's
that
different.
I'm totally familiar
I
with.
agree. I do too.
Here.
I do, always. Nonfiction.
But I can't wait to get to the end of Whistler because I want to find out. I want to find out about this book. And, back to The Revenant. What say you about that, our last story? Or last comments about Veronica, whatever you want.
I'd like to say something, but I don't know how to use it.
Okay, go ahead, Judy.
I changed my mind. I reread The Revenant after her interview, and I changed my mind how I felt about it. And
Okay.
I really would like to reread, if I had the patience, reread the book, because I have a different perspective now. And
After meeting with Veronica?
After meeting with her, it's a lot of how I interpreted what she wrote, and she's an eloquent writer,
Yes.
but I attributed other things that were not necessarily appropriate. So, yeah, I'm glad we did that. That was great. I loved it.
Thank you. Any other, Mary?
Okay, just another question.
Yeah, great.
'Cause I have not gone back and listened to the interview. I've been
Okay.
busy the last
Yeah.
2 3 weeks,
Yeah.
whatever. Did she talk about her training, that she was mentored to write about fairy tales and that the importance of fairy tales? Because because I listened to an interview
Yeah.
by another author
Right.
or book person, critic, and she talked extensively about she studied fairy tales. And for a PhD, she wrote about fairy tales, not a
Yeah,
novel, but and
Veronica did.
right. And the
Yeah.
reason she uses fairy tales is because all the internal thoughts and actions, that the outside world actions aren't important. It's what's inside the head of the person. The story's affecting. And she tries to keep the emphasis there, and she finds fairy tales an easy way to do that, which I thought was like a really interesting comment.
Yeah, I mean, obviously fairy tales are important to her. She teaches them, she studied them. And you have to be passionate to do everything that she's done
Right.
about with fairy tales, because I like me a good fairy tale, but to study it, teach it, write about it.
In her PhD, her thesis was on fairy tale, Jewish and Jewish influences on fairy tales. So that's where some of this comes from.
Yeah.
Didn't she say that fairy tales, maybe I'm remembering wrong, that fairy tales were a big part of her childhood and that she grew up in the house with a lot? I mean,
Yeah.
I read them to my grandchildren.
Right.
But they were a book.
Right.
They weren't an important thing. And I seem to think early on in the conversation that she emphasized that they were a big part of her life.
I have a fairy tale book, which I read to my grandchildren, that I read to my children. And I realize now, it talks about people being fat and stupid. And you don't find that in children's literature anymore. And those type of fairy tales are, very adult, and we don't realize, or maybe we did. I didn't when I had my kids.
No, I think we think.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a different time.
It was a different time.
There's a book called The Wise Men of Helm, which is
Yes.
a fairy tale, and it's a positive fairy tale.
Here. And it's very funny. And I tell those stories up at camp. Film stories are great, but, I'm just talking about our, our cultural fairy tales. Lynn, did you have your hand up?
I did. So many thoughts are going through my mind. We've been through the book. We discussed magical realism. And after this story, particularly, I realized that some authors need to express an idea that you could never do in words. You can never, there's certain concepts like revenge and vengeance and lack of trust. And these are some of her deepest, I'm saying her deepest feelings come out in this story.
Right.
The lack of trust, the destruction of faith in people,
Right.
betrayal. I think she had some moments in her life, because she did say it was that were traumatic.
Yeah.
And how do you explain to someone those thoughts except in an image or, in a fairy tale?
That's why she uses it, because she can go
Exactly.
internally
Right.
and visual,
Right.
whatever. But this is all about sexual trauma and
Think this
abuse.
is sexual trauma?
Sexual trauma. Yes, I heard her interview. That's
Oh, okay.
yes.
Tell us.
Okay, she's very into women's rights and women's studies.
Yeah.
And she's even taught through fairy. A lot of
Yes.
her classes are about fairy tales and connecting it to women's issues. But this is about someone who takes a 14-year-old
Right.
and basically sexually abuses her.
Uh-huh.
And the trauma is in her head. Look in a mirror, whatever. She uses the image of Bloody Mary. Well, Bloody Mary.
I want to talk about that Bloody Mary. I remember that vaguely
Mary
growing
the
up, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, but
I don't remember that.
I think I think it's like 70s.
Yes.
Yeah, teenagers in
Oh,
the
yeah, maybe.
70s.
Bloody Mary was Queen Mary the First.
Okay.
She was Henry VIII's daughter who got rejected
that
because of her
Mary.
mother. Yeah, her mother, Spanish mother who didn't have a son, right? And so she was separated from her mother, incarcerated, and then she had the chance to come to the throne, which she did, and she killed 270 Protestants. She wanted to make and tortured people. I mean, and priests and what, not priests, but, people espousing clergy. Thank you. Protestantism, because of the fact she wanted to return England to Catholicism.
Right.
And she was called Bloody Mary. And then there are two other people in that period. I looked this up. I would never have known this. That were, one of them was a herbalist and a witch, of course, who killed children for their blood to stay young. And the other one was the same thing. You kill children and you take their blood and will keep you young. So there are two women. There are two women that are in stories or history or whatever. They're historic that people make. So it goes back to some of that kind of thing. So that's the background of that. So it's basically taking doing terrible, traumatic things to children for your own good, I guess. So you want to stay young, and now we do other things, but whatever.
But
I was at the Highland Park Art Fair, and there was a dermatologist there, and they gave sunscreen. I said, "Oh, I'll take that." And she goes, "Don't you want to sign up for $500 of Botox?" I said, "Do I need it?" And she goes, "Everybody needs Botox." And I was like, "What?"
Everybody's doing Botox.
But not every dermatologist would do it. My Anne went to a dermatologist for something else, and she asked about Botox.
Yeah.
And the dermatologist said, and she's 45, looked at her and said, "On your face, absolutely no, because you have a very expressive face and you're going to lose it, and you don't want to live without expression.
A frozen face.
And you do not have deep enough wrinkles. You don't even go there. Maybe one day, but not now. It's not appropriate."
Right.
So she goes, "Okay, thank you."
I'm out.
So not everyone's like
The story's title and epigraph. The narrator defines the revenant as the one who comes back, but notes that home is gone. So all that is left is haunting. What does it mean to haunt rather than heal? Do you see this as a failure, a form of survival, or something else? Lynn.
That's interesting, because I was just going to react to the end of the story where I felt that she, and this could be wrong, that she was the force behind her own destruction. There are things, and then I wrote in my notes, choices have consequences. So in the story, she makes a lot of choices that turn out badly. And then I think at this point in the story, she is confronting that dark side we've talked about. And if you don't confront it, you're doomed to have it control you. So I think this is one of the more psychological stories in the.
Here. I think your statement, choices have consequences. I think today's kids don't always get that because their parents take away the consequence.
Exactly.
And that just, like, you made the choice. You live with that.
And responsibility entirely, having responsibility for your own choices.
Exactly.
Things that you do.
Right.
Honestly, I think I would love to be one-on-one with this off. I mean, the things that she confronted, and she does not look like the kind of person that would engage in.
Why does that type of person look like?
I don't know. Well,
she says in the book she's 14 years old. What 14-year-old? I mean, come on. I mean,
are you kidding?
Yes, she said in the very beginning with the man.
I taught high school.
Right,
What do you know, 14-year-old
there's no vision. They don't see themselves. You know what? I used to look at.
They have more brains than you think.
No, but they dress, and at Deerfield High School, and there was no dress code, and they would dress And there's part of them that sort of realizes that maybe it's sexual, but there's another part of them that just doesn't get the whole picture of what that means.
Yeah.
They don't see the whole consequences. They see I want to be accepted. I want to be looked at. I want to be.
They really despise being objectified, but they do everything
To objectify. Exactly.
to objectify
Exactly.
themselves.
Exactly.
It's a conflict in the teenage psyche, I think.
Yes, that's what I mean.
And
they
then
don't
we
see the
do
whole
know
picture.
that the brain of a 14-year-old has not developed
Nope.
to use reason
Right.
in their
Oh, absolutely.
choices.
They don't see the whole picture. They don't think
So
about
I
right.
think this is
I have always talked with my colleagues that at 13, when we give kids a bar bat mitzvah and they're on center stage, they want nothing more than to be part of the crowd. But at 16, when they've developed, they have, they want to have a voice, we give them confirmation and it's a group thing. And I said, if only we could switch that around. Of course,
That's
I'd have
really interesting observation.
Yes,
You're absolutely right.
I'd have them 3 more years. But I just, when you have these thoughtful confirmation kids, and I used to have people come back to me all the time and say, confirmation, it was the best year ever. Why can't you do that every other year? I said, because they're 16. They can have a discussion with the rabbi. They can, they're not fully formed. They're more formed than they were at 13.
and COVID has pushed maturation even further back.
Agreed.
So honestly, you're not going to change the Bible or the rules, but you have to look at the society and see how the kids
Right.
are at that point.
You also have, I'm sorry, Judy?
Yeah.
Go ahead. All right.
Okay, on page 268, there, the last sentence of the second paragraph, if only we could go to her and reassure her that there will be much, much more for her. Perhaps we can, but then this would be a very different story, wouldn't it? Best then to leave her to her own devices, and I think that's what happens today. I think.
That they're left to their own devices with the helicopter parents?
I think that's what's happening, and I think it is good to point out that in this story, especially with this young woman, she needed much more support. She needed much more guidance. But it's endemic that we don't give it to them because they don't want it.
Yeah. It's it's really fascinating because again, working with 13-year-olds and their speeches, and I've shared this with you before. Sometimes parents are afraid to criticize or rehearse them, or it's like your kid is giving a speech in front of 200 people. Don't you want them to practice that and slow down, be loud, all of that? And look, I know that we have faulty sound systems and all that, but I used to give a 3-minute thing at every B'nai Mitzvah. And I had people repeatedly come up to me and say, you're the only one I understood and heard the whole morning. And sometimes it happens on Sunday morning here. So I think it's I think that there's a frisson that the kids need more, and they don't want more, but parents are afraid to give it, but they're hovering.
Helicopter parents. They only want their children to succeed.
Right.
Instead of letting the child write the speech.
Right.
And then practice it and maybe guiding them a little.
Exactly.
It's here's your speech, and they write too much of it. They do. A lot of parents. I mean, when I was at Deerfield High, so many parents wrote papers for kids.
Oh my God! And that was before AI.
Whose writing was, they were in many times like a level 3/level 2 classroom, and writing skills they could develop But the parents never let them because they always wanted that final paper to be an A. So they would go over it instead of letting the child learn something from it. And that's really the writing process. And it used to frustrate me terribly because they come in with these perfect things with a voice that was not theirs. And I would want to say, what? No, let's start over. But I couldn't. I mean, there wasn't.
You know what this word means? No, I
You
don't.
know what?
Yeah.
On page 266, I think the author in this story, or in this chapter particularly, breaks the wall and comes out as the author speaking. I think
Interesting.
she is,
Tell us more.
okay, so she, in point of view, you can have a persona for the author. And in this case, I think she has broken the wall because she is doing an analysis of what a teenage girl is like.
Yeah.
So this girl who's 14 is not speaking like this. She wouldn't be speaking like this.
Yeah.
This one is, more of an more of the omniscient, all-knowing person.
Mhm.
But look at what she says, which is supporting what you guys are saying. A real teenage girl, not a fantasy, not, now I'm out of the book for a moment to talk to you. It's a real teenage girl, however, one who hasn't had sex before is considerably different. For one thing, she will be painfully self-conscious and extraordinarily anxious about what you think of her. This is very psychological now. She will not know what she's supposed to be doing at any given moment or how she is supposed to be feeling. She will very likely freeze up. Of course, you can make this sort of thing work to your advantage. You, after all, will know what you are doing, what you like and what you want, and she will not be in a position to question you or object. After all, she won't want you to think she's not cool. She doesn't want to be a disappointment to you, but be aware that she's probably not enjoying herself. She's quite likely numb with terror and embarrassment. She's disassociating like mad. Okay, so are you hearing the author? Are you hearing a character?
Yeah.
Who is this in the story? So therefore,
I think you're an author.
I think this is. Yeah. How did you feel about the tone of this?
I felt it was the author dealing with her own self-trauma.
And it could be that.
Yeah.
Which would put her to, a
Right.
14-year-old doesn't do
Right,
this, but I can
exactly.
tell you it. But, and the other part of it is her very last line, will I give her what every revenant wants, affection, opportunities, and a loving welcome home. She's saying you have to accept the trauma. You have to deal with the trauma. That's what that
Exactly.
statement is. And so that's what
Right.
she's trying to do. Now, whether she experienced the trauma or she's seen it in other people, we don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. But the point is, this is someone dealing with now with something that happened in the past that was very
Now
traumatic.
she comes back to the I in the next page. For so long, I felt only guilt and shame and humiliation. So who's talking here? I mean, we have to see if we trust this narrator, if we believe this narrator.
Jude, wait a minute. Merle, then Judy. Merle, go ahead. I'll unmute you. Go ahead.
Okay. I learned a new word in this story where she talks about the difference between love and
Yes.
limerence.
Yes, I looked
it up. Yes, limerence.
Limerence. I didn't know that word.
I didn't either.
I didn't
Limerence
know.
is- yeah, well, there's a definition I can give you. Limerence is an involuntary, all-consuming state of romantic obsession
What I
and
saw.
infatuation, and opposed to
14
love, where in love there's a healthy love focuses on a mutual connection and the well-being of the other person. Limerence is largely self-centered. It is not necessarily about the actual person, but rather the desire to be desired by them. And I think that was a very interesting distinction. I never heard that before, that the teenager is probably going through a kind of limerence rather than
Interesting.
really
Yeah.
being.
Agreed.
Judy.
Bad crushes.
On page 272, why now, you may be wondering, why now? Why after so many years did I call her out for vengeance now? I think that's the author as well.
I think she's calling herself. I mean, I don't know. I think she's talking to herself here. This is a very,
I think she
introspective.
reveals herself in this story more
I
than
do too.
any of the others.
Yep.
Interesting. Very, very, very interesting. And I, again, as I prepare to go to camp in a month I deal with younger girls. Oh, I know what I was going to say before. Because of what we eat, high fat, high processed foods, girls develop much earlier. I deal with the little girls and they look like they need bras. They look, they're getting their period earlier and earlier.
Right.
And that's to go through puberty earlier. And then your male counterparts are like, I don't think they're going through puberty earlier. I'd have to look into that.
I don't know.
I know girls are. I know for a fact girls are. And so it's just fascinating to see this all, play out at camp and to see it just play out in the world and, forever crushes. And when we look at, social media is pervasive and they see, these beautiful celebrities, these skinny celebrities, these perfect celebrities. And even looking at, these young adult books that have been made into series off campus. These and in off campus, the heroine, the main protagonist in real life is 19 and she falls in love, and they're supposed to be the same age. But in real life, her boyfriend is 28, 29. And I was like, so I all of that is just, we have to deal with it. We have to deal with the images. And the other thing, when we go to camp, they have to unplug. They can't have their phones. And I've heard kids say time after time after time, I'm so relieved not to be on social media, have to answer phone calls, all of that stuff. And what are we doing to our kids? Merle, did you have your hand up?
Yes, there's a TV show on Apple TV Plus called Margot's Got Money Troubles.
Oh, God, yes.
And she's out in college, but a very young girl in college. And what happens when she gets involved with a teacher who looks like he's around the age of the man in this story? He was 40, between 45. And the terrible effect it has on her life. And it just is absolutely a very intense exploration of what happens. When this little infatuation turns that into a tremendous life trauma for the girl.
Yeah.
So,
I was going to talk about, I'm going to piggyback on you, Merle, because I taught high school for so long. And I guess, things that we thought, the acting out of the kids in class, which we thought we, shouldn't take personally, which of course we did. So in this last section, I thought this is really important. What happens to these kids who go through these traumas, whether they're big or small? High school kids, everything's a big trauma, to them.
Everything's a 10.
Yeah. So if we look at this, I'm wondering how much teachers are aware or counselors are aware that some of these kids have post-traumatic stress syndrome, I think.
They do.
Because look what she does, which is very typical. She totally numbs her body and totally withdraws and becomes unable, quote, to feel anything at all because she's been afraid of betrayal.
I think teachers and counselors go through more training. More and more and more training.
Or they
do.
They know.
They absolutely do.
Oh,
And
really?
In special ed, that's absolutely true. All the counselors, we had we were regularly within Department of Special Ed when we had meetings. We would talk. We would have them come in and talk to us. It was always front and center, and how to be aware, and don't just say the kids, And if you had kids that were withdrawing or kids who acted out or whatever, to be aware and to make them aware and to look for their comments and their language. These counselors have so much knowledge, and they're most of them are really tuned in.
Before I go to camp every year, I get a background check. Arthur comes up on the weekend. He gets a background check. Every year, I've been going for 40 years. And for the past 5 years, I have to take this course, an online course, Safe Camping. And it goes through grooming. It talks to you about all these things to watch for between counselors and kids. I mean, if I think about what I have to do now, I couldn't have imagined it in 1989 before I went. Could not have
I
imagined.
think I don't know, I mean, I'm out of the loop now, but I think COVID must have done a real damage on these.
Here, here.
In terms of social interaction.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
here,
Still catching up.
She admits that she said, so I killed Belle instead. When I smothered her, she barely even put up a fight, and I thought I was protecting myself.
Yep.
So all these kids who are withdrawn,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I am learning something, and I'm not even in the classroom anymore.
Yeah,
But, you know,
exactly.
it's different and everything.
Evie.
Yeah, my concern is for the kid that does not act out, the withdrawn kid that's not noticed. The kid
Yeah.
that does not have the privilege of going to camp and having that exposure of people that are so well prepared. It's kind of like, I don't want to say the silent, and I think it's a silent majority. I mean, we're talking about kids that have the wherewithal, they have helicopter parents that, and I can see the deficit of that. And I know that, you know, that's one of the things that I think sometimes kids at camp are happy not to have their phones because they're not being watched every moment by their.
They track them. That's what I think is really weird.
That is on top of everything. I mean, the fact that my granddaughters know, I mean, everybody knows where they are at every single moment and so forth. That
Yeah.
I don't understand it. But on the other hand, you know, the kid that's not noticed, it's very quiet, that you don't know what's going on, and they don't know they don't know if something is natural, if it's a trauma, or how to react. And I think
Right.
for years and years, you don't know what's healing, what needs to be healed, or what
Yeah.
is an issue. I think everybody's a 14-year-old at some point, but I think
I absolutely agree with you, Abby. And over these years, I've had to train myself because you call on the kids who are receptive to you. And a lot of times it's, you know, a very aggressive boy. And I have to say to myself, you got to call on this one. You have to call on this one. Seek out the quiet one. And it is those quiet ones who are silently crying out to be recognized, noticed. And it's, you know, that's what makes a good teacher, a good counselor. It's so important. And, you know, I'm not sure how, you know, parenting can help this. And I think Litali has done a great job at parenting her kids, and they know that there's consequences. Also, you know, I can tell you they still have leftover Halloween candy. Because she monitors that. But
Same with my grandchildren.
Yeah.
It's like really weird.
right, it's super weird. I think for us, we
Throw it out.
exactly. So, you know, there has to be a happy medium somewhere there. Lynn.
Vanessa, I
Yeah.
think the job of teachers now are so, important, but second of all, the job description is so much broader than it was when I was teaching.
Yep.
I mean, you have to be aware of not only homework and teaching, but emotional, psychological, physical things that are going
Physical,
on with the
yeah.
kids.
And I also
Yeah.
think that because of internet, phones, everything else, you're not only dealing with the child, you're dealing with the parent.
Yeah,
Every
absolutely.
assignment they have the parent gets a copy of at all times. It's on, they see everything.
Really?
Oh, yeah. You can't assign a paper without it. It goes out to the parent. All the grades go out all the time. It's a continual thing. Like, Monday they took a test and Tuesday it's online to the parents.
I know.
And parents weigh in all the time. So many of them, because they're helicopter.
Yeah.
So
Oh, he meant to turn that lesson in. Oh, it's right here.
Right.
And the kid should say that, not the parent.
Right. And so the parent
Elaine, I see you.
becomes part of the educational process with the teacher, which is very difficult because
Tell
many
me about
times
it.
they are protecting their kids. Many times they're like, well, they step in where the child should take consequences or be taught, have confidence that it wasn't because their parents stepped in that they got a good grade. It's because they really prepared well or whatever.
Yeah.
It really diminishes the educational experience for the child, but it also diminishes the teacher because they're not only dealing with, here's your student who has a relationship with, but this person online who's monitoring everything you're doing.
Right.
So it's a
Elaine.
very weird situation.
Elaine, go ahead.
You're talking about Highland Park and Deerfield. You're talking about, again, the bubble. Now, my granddaughter teaches in Highwood. So Highwood School that Sarah teaches at
Is out of the bubble.
is a mix. It's a mix. There are kids from Fort Sheridan that are in the bubble. But a lot of the parents are overwhelmed. They're working two jobs. They're doing this, they're doing that. They don't understand. And the child, consider this, the child of, and this is going to sound somewhat racist, but it's actual.
Then try to rephrase it. So it's not racist, Elaine.
Right. The Hispanic kid who doesn't have the fancy gym shoes and the camps and all of this, and has young siblings that they are babysitting on the weekends, are traumatized. So we're thinking, and the parents don't write their papers because they don't speak English enough. So there is that thing. And those kids are traumatized differently
Yes, they are.
than the kids that you're talking
The
about.
privilege gap is huge.
Yes, the privileged kid. My granddaughter took my 6-week-old great-grandson for physical therapy. I mean, and now if you look at for his neck wasn't strong enough. His neck, he's on his back, he's rolling, he's doing it. Now, granted, he probably would have done this without the physical therapy.
But now.
Okay.
Yes, Judy.
We have something that helps teachers adapt to the changes. We have kids that are relying on their friends and social media to help them move forward.
Yeah.
Why don't we have classes for parents that helps parents see some of these things to improve how they're doing? We need to focus on parents as well.
Yeah.
And
Listen, Judy, I would say to you, we have those classes, and I sometimes even run things here for, the sandwich generation, or for people thinking about going into assisted living, and everyone thinks it's not for me.
It's true.
That's what they think. They're like, well, you're not talking about me. That's for this person over here. Yeah. So I think that those type of self-aware type classes are hard to get people to attend.
I can say this, when my kids went to high school at Glenbrook South, they had a meeting for parents, for parents of seniors, and you had to attend like 4 or 5 meetings about learning how to let go.
They still do that.
And they had a book called Letting. I still have it. I gave it to my daughter. I
Did you not do that at Highland Park?
those kinds of things are very helpful, but they need a lot more of it right now.
Yeah, it's hard to have resources and to have people think they mean that. And I remember going to Deerfield and with Jonathan, and he's very, very literal. And whoever was leading it said, we want to be in the driver's seat with you as you go to college. And I saw Jono's face was like, what? And then I leaned over, I said, do you think they're going to drive with you to college? He's like, yes. I know. So every kid needs their own. I mean, and look, I'm very aware of that, and but I think other people are not as aware. Lynn,
As a former teacher in the bubble, the pressures on the kids and the pressures on the parents and all the competition going among the parents and among the kids is formidable.
yes.
So how do you cut down on the pressure? I can't, this keeps me, we're always on the parents and then we're on the teachers. What about the administrators in the high school who put this pressure on the kids? Because they want to be known in the newspaper.
As a good school,
As a
having
good
top test.
school.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Great. So
It's important.
honestly, I don't know how you ever.
It's hard. I mean,
It's so hard. It's within the family
Yeah.
unit, I believe, to cut down on the pressure.
yeah.
But who knows?
I think it's in our culture.
I think it's in our.
And I think
culture as
that
well.
it is not, I'm talking about the bubble.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable for to say, oh, my kid's going to go to a trade school and become a carpenter or he's going to be
no.
electric. You can't do that. And the programs that they used to have in Highland Park and Deerfield, they used to build houses in Highland Park. I had a friend who lived in a house that was built by Highland Park.
I know.
No, it's not. And
Well, the whole
your kid's
vocational schools,
you're going to Lake County for some classes is like putting a big red letter on your kid. So that, and I think it's a misguided, particularly with AI. AI is going to get rid of a lot of white collar jobs. But the
It
trades.
has already.
But the
Not the
trades need them,
trades,
but
right.
not the trades.
Yeah.
I mean, I would rather have, to be honest with you, in some ways, I'd rather have a child who learns to be a really great plumber and develops a plumbing
An
business
electrician.
or an electrician
I need an
or
electrician.
whatever than someone who's going to have a mediocre career in a white collar job with all this education but be frustrated and bored. I mean, but we need to change our thinking to adjust to it. I mean, it's huge.
Here. Evie.
She's muted.
She's
Oh, I'm unmuting you. And go ahead.
Yeah, what we forget though is we can't disregard the personality of the teacher. I mean, everybody has their own feeling, their own personality, that as much as they try to do what's right, it comes through. And I just have a vivid memory right now. My son, today is his 50th birthday. I'm having a hard time adjusting to that because how can that be? Because I'm just that age.
Exactly. You don't look that. You could have a son that'll.
And I remember his kindergarten teacher at Lincoln School. You know, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, this was a parent conference, and he wrote, I guess, that he wanted to be a rabbi. And this teacher felt that she had to console me to make me feel better. And her response was, well, at least when he retires, he'll make a lot of money. That was her response. And I just so vividly remember
What did
that.
she
And
say?
he was so shocked at that time.
Yeah.
She was a good teacher, but just
Yeah.
her personality just came out in a candid way, and you can't control that.
Yeah.
What did the teacher say? I didn't hear it.
She had to console Evie because the kid wanted to become a rabbi. Because I'm sure she didn't know what a rabbi was or what a rabbi did, or you could make a living at that. Yeah. You know, when you deal with people who don't really know you, how do you, I grew up in Crystal Lake, my college counselor, and I'm like, I want to go to Brandeis. And she goes, where's that? Who says where's Brandeis? No one.
Great Lakes, they say
People
that.
outside
in Highland Park and
don't
Deerfield.
know.
Exactly. So anyway, and I didn't apply, but I went to University of Michigan and loved it. What we pass down, Schanoes draws on fairy tales and folklore as vessels for truth too painful to say plainly. Ooh, I like that. What stories, rituals, or silences has your own community passed down about harm, survival, and justice? What gets named and what doesn't? Elaine.
I think that is so relevant to the way we live.
Thank you.
We watch our words, we color what we have.
Yeah.
We tell everyone, oh, my kids are doing fabulously. And I live this fabulous life, and you have this killer living in your house that you don't acknowledge. Seriously, I think that's one of the problems in the bubble. that we have to appear, whether we use fairy tales in our own mind
Yeah.
or make up a fairy tale.
Yeah,
I
that's
think that our lives, in a lot of women's lives,
Yeah.
as we get from
Mhm.
marriage through like my life,
Mhm.
I think that we make up our own fairy tales.
It's interesting. Very, very, very
That's an
interesting.
excellent point.
Yes, yes.
I'm gonna, I have Hebrew after this and I have to talk to you about some things, but one thing that's coming up, it's gonna be in August. Craig Goldstein, who is a member, his wife was shot in the July 4th parade. She was a congregant. And he's gonna talk about grief, gun violence, trauma, how the government is dealing with him. And, you know, I think that July 4th thing was a big trauma on us and how
Yes,
we dealt with it or didn't deal with it. And some people don't want to go to parades. So August 11th, I think it's going to be very interesting. We need to talk about next year. Since we finished this, I can mark it red. This is my idea for next year. There's some wonderful online stories that we can download, or I can make a copy for you, and we can look at different authors, and you can have the sheets of paper, and that's what I think we should do for next year. Mary?
I think that I have been I've said this to you before. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to not always read a whole collection?
Yes,
make our own?
exactly.
After coming to this for about a month, I said that to you.
Yes, you did.
And I think it is probably the best way we all have different perspectives of what we like and dislike.
Yep.
And the types of stories. So if it's a story that disturbs you, a little bit more disturbing, you don't want to read it, it's a lot easier than reading a whole book of disturbing stories.
I think
And I think it's a
good
great idea.
Thank you.
Yes.
So,
Because people did not always like the book, and they would have liked it.
all right, Ixnay, Elaine, Ixnay.
Okay.
What if she watches this? We love you, Veronica. I want to introduce Andrea Delenka, and she is the new director of congregational learning, and she'll be running Lev Learning. And I just wanted everyone to see her and say hi.
Hi.
And show her our fabulous book group, our short story collection, and we have people online and people in person. It's been a great year. Yes, Mary.
It's Lev plus the adult, all the programming too, or not? Is it everything or only Lev?
Just Lev.
Okay, just Lev. Okay, that's good. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Family engagement and stuff like
Yes,
that.
That's, well, that's, that you're doing with.
Right.
We're seeing a very abbreviated version
Yes.
of our.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Your book
think,
group.
right.
It's a yucky day.
It's a
today.
yucky
Yeah.
day. It's June.
Yeah.
So I do want to tell people I will get the stories to you. And actually, Veronica has one story online. I'll put that later in the year. So if you have authors that you really loved or short stories you really love, please let me know. And I will be putting together that syllabus and getting it to you. And we will meet again the first weekend in August, let's see here. August 5th,
Oh, wow.
okay? Right, 5th and 19th. So, and I'll get you the dates and the stories.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be another great year. So, you don't get to mark in Goodreads that you finished the book, but you can mark it in your calendar. So thank you everybody for being here. I do have to sprint off to Hebrew. And if you have any questions, June 30th, Tuesday at 2:00, virtual only. Professor Ayel, Yonatan Ayel, that's his name. He's going to talk about how we celebrate 250 years of America. And he's a professor at Harvard in Toronto. He's going to be very interesting. And July 12th, Cantor Jay will be here to talk, why is our name Macomb? And he promises some music. So that'll be 9:30 Lox and Bagels, 10 o'clock. Cantor Jay here at Macomb, please come on down. So looking forward to everything. And
I gotta go.
okay, goodbye. If anyone has questions,
Bye. It was so
all
nice meeting you.
Bye, guys.
right, bye. Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody.
August.